Ni hao, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Gregory Ropp. I am the Vice President, Research and Technology, Dean of Graduate Studies, and at this moment, quite honored and privileged to be your MC for today's event, the first in this academic year's series of distinguished lectures. Now, I need to ask a quick question of people. How many are here without actually having read the abstract of today's talk? Quite a few. In fact, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. It's a brief abstract, but nonetheless, the name Professor Thomas Sargent was probably enough to bring you here. But for those of you who did read it, let me tell you a little bit something about the abstract to kind of set the stage. So if you read the abstract, you might have noticed that the topic of discussion took place some 200 years or so ago in a country, actually a fledgling, struggling democracy, some would say an experiment, an ocean away. But in spite of that great time and distance that separates us from that story, we'll find that the lessons, I'm sure, have great relevance to the global economic struggles that the world faces today. If you, like me, you go home at night and you flip through the news channels. I actually watch all the news channels in sequence, flipping between CCTV and CNN and BBC and Al Jazeera. The fact is, it doesn't matter. The same stories are on, a little bit different points of view. The same headlines: onerous, spiraling, out-of-control government debts, threats of default. The fate of the euro hangs in the balance. Unemployment rates that, especially for those who are unemployed, remain stubbornly and painfully high. Bailouts, austerity measures. Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Central. It dominates the story in the headlines. So inarguably, the world at this moment in time is facing severe problem. It's extremely complex. The solutions and the directions are going to require the analysis and thoughts of some of our greatest minds, the greatest minds the world has to offer. Which brings me to our speaker, Professor Tom Sargent. So, in a moment, President Kuo will give your formal welcome and formal introduction worthy of our speaker, but let me be a little informal and talk a little bit about the path that brought him to us here today. So let's go back to his high school days. I'm seeing if he's squirming in his seat here or not. So we're talking about sunny California. I'll just say over 50 years ago, over half a century ago, sunny California. What do you suppose a bright mind like this was thinking and worrying about in high school? Well, I'm going to quote from his little hometown paper called the New York Times. I hope the quote is right. You'll have to tell me if the quote is correct or not. But here's what he was quoted as saying about his high school years. I was interested in football, in girls, in getting my work done with the least amount of effort. Is that an accurate quote or not? You know, papers, you got a 50-50 shot. He's kind of nodding yes. He went on to say, I think you've got to watch out for anybody in high school who says he wants to become an economist. Also accurate? Okay, all right. So accurate quotes. So let's fast forward more than 50 years to October 10th, 2011. So just about a year ago. Early morning Manhattan, sun's not up yet, he's up. Phone call, long distance Stockholm. Swedish accents. Not a crank call. Okay, letting him know that he had won the Nobel Prize for Economics. Okay, so the reason I bring this up, because now I can't go through his whole life history to how he got from high school, girls football, etc., to this great pinnacle. But something obviously happened. And the reason I bring this up because of who we are. We're an educational institution. And what happened started to happen when he went from high school to University of California, Berkeley, where he started to study economics, political science, became intrigued with both, fell in love with economics. And I'm sure he will tell you that it was the instruction he received there, the learning that he that he achieved there, and probably he's going to tell you there were one or two key individuals there who influenced him and inspired him and pushed him along in this direction. So, you know, most of us aren't going to win Nobel Prizes. But I think it's inspiring for us to think as institutions that maybe we touch the lives of someone who will someday. And that's kind of what keeps me going. I always take the greatest pleasure in my students' success, not my own success. So with that as hopefully inspiration, let me bring up our President, President Wei Kuo, to do a formal introduction. Thank you.
On behalf of City University Hong Kong, I'd like to welcome Professor Sargent to this beautiful campus. We were talking, this is a very compact place. And the university invited world-renowned scholars to come here to stimulate the ideas. I find most of you are students, and some of you are not. So we will introduce you to them, and we'd like them to understand what's the modern topic in this very hot issue that we're talking. I remember when I was very young, my mother told me that our life full of uncertainties. Then in the 1960s, the decision theory was invented, and people look at risk analysis. And risk analysis, there's a key element, which is utility function. Utility function means everything you do, there's utility function. But that was conceptual. Then Japanese try to define utility function. Many men probably don't know you are wearing the shirts, and the size usually go by 14, 14 and a half, and 15, 15 and a half, right? Do you know why? Why is 14, 14 and a half, and 15, 15 and a half? I leave this as homework for some students to do. There is a reason for this. And it's remote to Nobel Prize too, even as simple as it is. I went to school. I understand when I learned physics, the quantum mechanics, there's uncertainties associated with it. And now we're looking at economics, there's uncertainty associated with it. And we are developing this university as a university for excelling in research and professional education. Our provost and our colleagues are promoting the discovery-enriched curriculum. And we want to stimulate people's idea to embed our mind into the very exciting area. And uncertainty is a very important part of it, because we are facing a world that's full of uncertainty. It's just like my mother told me that your life would be full of uncertainty. It's exactly the same thing. So we are promoting multidisciplinary research, and we want students to be all interconnected. We have depths in what we study. We also have an interdisciplinary subject. So you will not be surprised to find some of the engineering students at CTU who are playing music, and then our class students who are solving mathematical equations. That's the hope that we're looking at it. So make long story short, on behalf of City University Hong Kong, Professor Sargent, the 2011 Nobel laureate in economics, to this campus and to deliver the talk. US then, Europe now. I'd like to add, how about Hong Kong in the future? Let's have a round of applause to welcome Professor Sargent. Thank you.